Greetings historians, welcome to Lore of the Dragon. I mentioned covering this before, so here we are, with another dive into the lore of the multiverse. Again, like the last subject I talked about, there are going to be some parts of various subjects I have and haven't talked about in this. So in advance, I apologize if I ramble about something I've already brought up in the past. This is, however, going to be a more in-depth look into a theory I've had for a bit, so everyone is caught up and can reference this whenever I talk about it in another subject. Alright, so before we get into this, I should explain the multiverse for those who are unfamiliar with it. In short, Crash and Spyro now share a multiverse with each other, a place where old games from each series coexist with each other. So for instance, The Legend of Spyro is in a separate universe than Skylanders, but they exist in the same multiverse. This has led me to make theories about characters like Cinder existing somewhat in Reignited, or it led to games like Crash on the Run, which expounded on the multiverse as a whole, making the universe which it takes place in the center of the multiverse. This goes as well for dark mirror universes like the Shadow Realms, the Dark Realms, and beyond. In the last topic, I mentioned how I have a theory about constants, a term I use to describe things like Spyro, Crash, magic, the darkness, aether, and the light. Obviously, Spyro would be a constant, but it's things like aether, the darkness, and so on that are more intriguing, as their power seems to be rather vast. These constants, however, aren't the same. Some are affected by the universe they're born into, like Spyro and Crash, or some others seem to transcend the rules of a universe and obey something above that. To keep this in order and to make sure that the multiverse doesn't get torn apart, the quantum masks keep things in relative order. They control various aspects of the different universes of which each universe seems to share, gravity, time, and so on. While these masks are more of a Crash concept in them being, well, masks, they play a fundamental part in keeping order for both Spyro and Crash. Overall, though, they do seem to conform to their own laws, another hint that there might be something of a multiversal law for such things and what can happen within it. If there's a higher power than the quantum masks, we're not sure. But I do know of other creatures that might be at the same level of the quantum masks on this plane: magic, the darkness, and the light. Now, what do we know about these powers, and why do I say they might be constants? Well, all throughout Spyro's history, with the exception of Skylanders, aether has seemed to have a present in the Legends timeline: Reignited, Crash Team Racing, and recently Crash on the Run. As far as we know, there's no actual difference to it outside of its perception, and even then, symbols dot the landscapes of various universes that shouldn't have anything to do with each other. While some versions of Spyro have found aether and used it, some have not, and are stuck with fire or normal elements. However, there are some that find darker powers, such as Dark Spyro. In Crash on the Run, you can see the influence aether has had on Dark Spyro. Now, this could be him using it as a symbol for himself, as that would be a good depiction of a dark purple dragon. But that knowledge was previously only in the Legends timeline. So there would have to be something similar in his own dimension, unless of course he traveled to the Legend dimension and learned that. There is that possibility with the creation of transdimensional portals, which could lead to some very strange circumstances, but I think with Reignited also having the presence of aether symbols, I believe it's more than likely that the idea of him learning of aether in his own universe is what happened. This doesn't quite mean the prophecy of the purple dragon is in that universe, but rather the power that fuels the purple dragon is. This is why I believe it is a constant, and it's much the same for the darkness. But it seems to go deeper in some places. Across the multiverse, we see the darkness leaking into different dimensions, and even having a mirror universe to parallel its lighter counterpart. How they were discovered originally, I'm not sure, but they mostly seem to be the same in what they are. But sometimes that darkness leaks out, either by accident, in the case of Skylanders with the Ancients and the Rift engines, or otherwise. The Legend timeline seems to have a natural defense for this, And perhaps that's what all other universes have, which is convexity, a space between the dimensions, at least in the Legends universe. In the last talk, I also mentioned that corrupted individuals seem to harbor the same traits seen by others in different dimensions. Such was my explanation for Cinder and Reignited, or why Dark Spyro looks similar throughout multiple dimensions. Now, the more and more I look at it, Aether and the Light from Skylanders would most likely operate toward the same goal, and vice versa with the Darkness and Dark Aether. So it would seem across the multiverse these two forces are battling, leading to the result of characters gaining abilities of dark or light, and for dark dimensions to form. Most likely that came around as of some sort of balance, or the dark dimensions we see today were just corrupted versions of an already existing universe. There do seem to be other constants, though they vary even more so than, let's say, Spyro. And those would actually be Sparks, Cinder, Malefor, and even Moneybags to some degree. Each one has been in multiple universes together, and shares similar traits with their counterparts, but again, they are formed by the universe of which they live in, as well as the multiverse. What significance they have, I'm not sure, but it does support a few characters coming along with Spyro into a new game by giving an in-lore reason. In the future, I'm not entirely sure how it would play out, but it is slightly worrying to see more activity on the part of the Darkness, like we have seen for the past 16 years. One thought of mine is that the constants within the universe, mainly Spyro, are there both because, well, they're born into the universes, but in the case of the Legend timeline, given what is needed to combat the Darkness. It even seems in the case of the Legend of Spyro, well, Spyro is given multiple chances to face the same enemy. So it would at least seem that there's a lot of coincidences when it comes to Spyro, or at least things that outright shouldn't happen, but do. The more I look at this, the more I feel like there's deeper lore here than we actually realize, and maybe even the developers realize. I'm not sure. If I ever get the chance to ask them about this stuff, don't worry, I will. Now, personally, I don't think that, let's say, Spyro in Reignited exists for the same reason he does in Legends or Skylanders. But in some way, he has combated dark powers before, and in a whole has pushed back the darkness in most cases, or at least what might have become the darkness. This could be individuals like the sorceress and so forth. So it would seem that the darkness and the light combat each other, but in various ways, intentional or not. Though in Skylanders, strange things happen when the darkness and the light combat each other, mainly in individuals. In Skylanders Academy, Spyro had his light stolen, and had been overwhelmed by the darkness because of that. But eventually he was split in two to remove the darkness from his body. This sort of magic could be the origin of Dark Spyro that we see in Crash on the Run, where he was split and that's why we see two Spyros instead of just one. Which just so happens to imply magic, darkness, and the light work the same in multiple universes, thus furthering the idea that it might be because they are constants that don't conform to the rules of a universe. I believe for now it would be good for us just to watch this, but that will be it for me. Thank you all for watching this, and by the way, I now have a Patreon. I don't really have anything to offer outside of my thanks and a shout out, but hopefully I can get something to you all in the future. I'm thinking about something with videos, but I'm still sort of working through that. But anyway, thanks to Abyssal Blue for the red gem, Azel for the red and green gem, and Kiasu Shin for the blue gem. I hope I didn't mispronounce that. Honestly, I don't really know what to say. If you guys want to consider doing this as well, which obviously you don't have to at all, not obligated at all. If you don't want to do it, don't even think about it. The link for the Patreon is down in the description below. Mostly this will just pay off commissions for the channel I get, so art and so on. Maybe at some point this will hopefully pay for merch which I can get to everyone else. Anyhow, if you guys just want to stay updated on Lore of the Dragon, be sure to check out and follow Lore of the Dragon on Twitter, or just check out the community page here on YouTube. Or rather, if you just want to talk to people in the community, feel free to stop by the Discord. The link to the Twitter and the Discord will be down in the description below. But anyhow, that's going to be it. I'll see you all the next time we talk and speculate. Stay safe, historians.